Hi everyone, welcome to our new episode of Onpoint. I am Melika Miran, the founder and CEO at Bay&Co and the host of our next very dear and interesting guest. So our today's guest is Denise Zaporzan, who is a chartered professional accountant at the head of Asteria global company, who is herself specialized in leading organizations through financial and strategic planning, operational efficiencies, performance and change management. She has also had diverse roles in many organizations and institutions, namely being a past instructor at the University of Manitoba and being a board member and finance committee chair at the Economic Development of Winnipeg, as well as being an active advisor in one of the designated organizations who is helping international entrepreneurs come to Canada, bring their business to Canada using the Startup Visa program. So we'll be having lots of interesting talks, so stay tuned and be with us.
Hi, Melika.
Hi, Denise. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. We finally got to do this after months.
I know.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I'm very glad that we're having this discussion. And as we were talking the other day, I highly believe this is going to be very, very, very beneficial for international and foreign entrepreneurs who are either thinking about starting or transferring their business to Canada, or they're currently in the process of, doing so, especially under the Startup Visa program. There are lots of, I'm hoping that this conversation is going to give them lots of clarification, especially around the common challenges and how they can, either address these challenges to increase their chance of success during this journey. So before we get connected, I gave a quick introduction about you to the audience, but I will ask you to introduce yourself. I'm sure a lot of people would love to know more about you.
Thanks, Melika. My name is Denise Zaporzan, and I am actually a chartered professional accountant by trade. I worked in the industry as a CFO for about 20 some odd years in privately held and publicly traded. So worked through many mergers and acquisitions, as well as reinvention of mature industries. And then I began to build my business back in about 2006 in the area of strategy, after I did a lot of teaching in strategy, and specifically concurrent with some teaching at the university here in strategy and finance and accounting. And my business has really evolved into one that is about supporting and advising in strategy, and not only in mature organizations, but certainly in the last number of years in a lot of startup and startup technology organizations. I have a team of about 5 who are very well versed in this space, and we continue to grow and support our clients with advisory services, not only in startup strategy, pitch ready, investor relations, business plan, all of that sort of space. So we do a variety of work in that support, as well as, for me, additional CFO for hire supporting.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And I'm going to jump into the very specific questions that's going to be the center of our discussion today. And well, first of all, I had a pleasure of working with you with some of the international entrepreneurs, in particular under the Startup Visa program. And I know you've been involved in that sector, and you've had a great exposure. So given that experience, as an especially active advisor in one of the designated organizations under the Startup Visa program, I want to know, what are the top challenges that you're seeing and experiencing that the Startup Visa applicants are facing and going through? And this question has 2 parts. One, I want to get your point of view on the challenges of these entrepreneurs with the actual program. And the second is your challenge as the advisor with the entrepreneurs who are going through this journey.
Mm-hmm. So do you want to start with the one in what I see their challenges as?
Definitely. Yeah, let's do so.
Okay. So definitely knowledge of the Canadian business space. So obviously different countries do business differently. There's different infrastructure for taxation, for government relations, for supports, but in general, the culture. certainly how we do business in Canada. Some countries have sanctions that they aren't able to do certain things or have social media presence. We are obviously, we are very fruitful and privileged in all the different pieces we can draw on in the Canadian landscape, but we have a highly structured taxation system. So really understanding the complications and it's not even complications, it's more of the sophistication of our business taxation. And then, also it's really then based on the industry that the client is getting into, and certainly provincially where they're planning on settling, because each province has its own jurisdiction within the government relations as well, and the networks and the different areas that it supports different type of industry. So that would be the main one, is really understanding the Canadian business landscape. The second one would be English as a language, and understanding it's one thing to educate and support our clients, but a lot of times English is not their first language, and they're in the process at the same time as going through the program of concurrently learning the English language. So lost in translation can certainly be a challenge sometimes. So communication needs to be very critical. And some clients, it's about written communication is better than oral, but it's important to have both. So that would be the second one. And then the third one would really be about understanding what the Startup Visa program really offers and the expectations of progress. So what I mean by that is the Startup Visa programs are not involved with government relations as far as issuing PR or work visas. We are standalone. We work as advisors only. We do not get involved in the PR process. And some clients believe that we can make that impact for them. We can only support them through seeing their progress and provide reports on progress. And if applicable, we can write a support letter, but we can't do contracting with the government ourselves. So that seems to be a misunderstanding by a lot of organizations, and really understanding that they have to make progress. They can't just come with an idea and say, we can bring this to Canada. There has to be progress shown throughout the 12 or 18 months of working in a program.
And when you're saying they're coming with the expectation of expecting you to be that kind of person on the regulation side, and you're not very much involved, of course, you're an advisor in a designated organization. I assume most of these people who are having this kind of confusion and challenges are coming without a representative, like having a low. Okay.
Yeah. So we really encourage that. And a lot of times a family member, a friend can be present on the meetings to provide that additional communication piece that's missing with respect to understanding the English language. And it's a critical piece. If you're going to come to Canada and commercialize your business and grow it, you have to be able to speak the language and understand that.
Yeah, of course. And I think we were talking about this, and you mentioned something very interesting, and it's at the deeper level about the understanding around the program. You mentioned that some of them think that you are the IRCC auditor, in a sense, that auditing them and supervising them. But that's, if they had some sort of a good understanding of the program, that wouldn't be an issue.
I have no connection with IRCC. They would have a better connection than I do. I would just know how to call the toll-free number and press wait in line for a representative.
Yeah, totally. So these are the top challenges that you're saying they're having. And from the advisor point of view, I assume one of these challenges that you as an advisor have, and we can talk about it more, is around the English proficiency, which is, of course, the mutual relationship, right? But I want to know more, what are the challenges that you're specifically experiencing as their advisor?
Yeah, some of the challenges, and it would be equally as frustrating for them, but some of the challenges is definitely they can go so far. We talk about progress, but then it gets a point where their MVP or their testing can only go so far in the country that they're currently creating that in, and that they've got to get to Canada to be able to actually finish the rest. So the frustration as an advisor is knowing that they've got to get to this next piece, and we can only do so much here without the product ourselves. So as much as we can introduce or make, and we do make introductions within our network who might fit the target audience for them, they really, they get halted because they've got to get to Canada to do their testing. They need to be present here. So that can be frustrating, really frustrating because of the sometimes miscommunication. This happens a lot where we have no shows for meetings, or the time difference, or the virtual connectivity over the internet. And so it can be really frustrating to not be able to really connect and meet sometimes, or not get information back in a timely fashion so that we can move on to the next piece.
So you set the time, the team is aware and well communicated of the timeline and everything, but there's no shows, which basically most of them can be because of again, going back to your first point of that sophistication of the business culture, and then probably some problems within the country.
Yeah, could very well be. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And I'll just say one other thing, Malika.
Yeah.
What can be extremely, and I would think the most frustrating as advisor, is if those that come in and don't show progress. There are a lot of clients that come in and they believe that they've got their idea and they really just want a ticket to Canada. And they have the funds to pay for the program, but they're not showing progress and responding and demonstrating interest in really bringing that project to substantiate it and add to the Canadian economy. That is the most frustrating. So when we see that, we provide reports back to the SUV organizations stating that, this client isn't being responsive to our emails or calls, no shows for meetings, and we're not getting and seeing progress from 1 month to the other as far as intent goes. So it's that intent of progress.
Yeah.
Very, understandable that they can only go so far in their countries based on certain things that are going on. But there's always other things you can do, whether it be learning about the environment, this landscape. There's other things to be done while they await their time that can demonstrate progress.
Yeah.
Just, keen learning. Wanting to know about entrepreneurship in Canada, wanting to be able to do some webinars that we'll send or of interesting topics about marketing or anything like that. So it's about showing interest, commitment, and progress.
Does that mean some of the individuals who are actually using this program and as a business immigration program to come to Canada are a little bit disconnected from the starter visa program? Is that what you're kind of like seeing as well?
Yeah. And a lot of well, I know there's another couple questions that you have that this will flow through, so I'll perhaps maybe stop there and we'll maybe move on to some of the other items with regards to prevention of these challenges.
Definitely. I think a good segue can be, as we have discussed this many times in the past, is that yes, there is a disconnect, and that kind of disconnect and that kind of lack of intent can create certain challenges down in the road. Whether it's a short-term goal or a long-term goal of the business, like they're going to experience a lot of challenges if the right intent is not there from the first place. And going to the second question that I had is, I really want to get your point of view, your advice for prospective and current SUV applicants, and how they can really, address these challenges that we discussed, or even kind of prevent them in the first place.
Yeah. So be ready to work and commit to the progress. So be passionate about your project and be ready to make it work as the best as you can as you await your journey to Canada. have a strong sense, if you aren't able to understand English fully, and we understand that, we totally understand that, then have a translator available or some AI software that will translate for you in real time. That is another opportunity. Be open with the advisor on what you need. Again, some people believe we're a spy for the IRC. Like, we're not. Be open with us and tell us, here's what I really need from you. And sometimes it's the simplest things. So having that honest relationship with your advisor is really important. We're here to support, and we're here to be part of their team, their extension of their team. We're learning from our clients at the same time as they're learning from us. So having that open relationship right from the beginning and getting to know one another from that context, and thinking of your advisor as an extension of your team is important. And talk about that type of structure and what your needs are. Some of them don't know the steps in building an MVP. They don't even know that they have to start building the software. So, understand the steps in a tech build. What are the TRL stages? We talk about that in our very first meeting. And if they don't know, we provide them with that. But understanding that roadmap that you need to move through your tech build is really important. And if you don't know that, ask your advisor about it. You don't have to have all the questions, all the answers. We'll then help you to understand that as part of our advisory work. So those are some of the general.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I love seeing how we have a lot of amazing clients who just want professional development around Canada, and they want to learn more. So we can recommend, and especially with my connection with the University of Manitoba and our business school and my team's connections, we can recommend so many webinars, extra items to sign up for, extra subscriptions of receiving items or newsletters or information over the internet or through email. There's so many things we can provide outside just the project development.
Yeah, and going back to the intent, I feel like we have seen two different types of applicants, mostly the ones who are, more passive and the ones who are active. And once the applicant has the right intent and they're actually, looking forward to pursue the company and make it progress, and the goal is, very real and actual, we see that they're going after those kind of sources. They're very active. Every kind of information, they try to benefit from it. They reach out to you actively asking for that information. And it's very important to their success ultimately. So absolutely, for sure. Yeah, that's a very important point for them to know.
And one other thing, Melika, in that space is a lot of clients don't come with a business plan or even a pitch deck. They just have a 2-page overview for the basic requirements to get in, and a basic PowerPoint overview just for the basic requirements to apply. But put the thought process, or ask your advisor to help to build a business plan. That's one of the first things. We have an infographic that we share with our clients on the key elements of a business plan. And a business plan should not be 60 pages. It should be 20 to 25 pages maximum, inclusive of some high-level financials. So have that business plan, and then be ready to work with your advisor on preparing a pitch deck, especially if you need future investment.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Okay, these are amazing points. Okay, I have my last question for you, which is, more general, so any entrepreneurs can use it. So I want to know, as the head of Asteria Global yourself, having extensive knowledge and experience in the financial industry, I want to know what are some, basic and fundamental financial points that you recommend to entrepreneurs that they need to keep it in mind. I'm sure this is going to be very useful for them because we get that a lot.
Yeah. Understand your cost structure, and you may not understand it for the Canadian space. So that's one of the first things you want to find out in your work with your advisor, is understanding cost structures, especially those fixed costs. understanding your component, and sometimes it's about the different components of hardware, or if it's software, understand that if you need a software build, you've got to put these items all in your financials and account for those so that you're truly able to know how and what you're getting into. There's been times, honestly speaking, that we'll see the financials in a business plan or a high level summary, and it'll show income or not, or it'll show investment, but they're just paying themselves. And we're saying, hold off, you're building a business. You're the last person to get paid right now. Do you understand your cost structure? Is your cost structure realistic? That's one of the first things I'll look at. What are the goals of the statements? Do you know a profit and loss or an income statement? Do you know a cash flow statement? There's some key items that you need to take into consideration. Will you be needing to hire people? What do those wages look like in the Canadian market? All kinds of items with regards to the costing so that it is realistic. And then the projected revenue, how realistic is that? And that's really important. And I certainly ask that. Another piece that is often overlooked is protection. So what is built in for legal and accountants in the cost structure? IP protection, trademarks, all of those items need to be considered. Mm-hmm. So those would be those key things: basic cost structure around not only direct costs of the product and the build, but the overhead costs, and getting an idea of what those are in the Canadian space, because they need to be Canadianized. And then what is the protection you need?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, perfect.
And that protection can be IP, trademark, and if it's med tech, it needs to be regulatory. What's involved? And that can get really expensive. What is the regulatory costs or needs to be able to identify if there's a certain classification in the med tech space that your product needs to conform to?
Yeah, and it gets very sensitive with, medical solution, and that's something that we see that it gets skipped often. Or even patenting a solution or anything, like all the costs around IP patents. And this is something that it's usually, ignored or dismissed, which is very important. And thank you for bringing that up. Amazing. Yeah. Okay, so I think we covered everything. And if anyone want to reach to Denise, how would be the best way? Is that LinkedIn, email? What do you prefer?
Well, I certainly do have a LinkedIn profile. Happy to connect on LinkedIn and message through there. I have to be honest, I'm not on LinkedIn as frequently as I would be on my email. So my email is denise@asteriaglobal.com. Perhaps you can include that in the video. Definitely. But a direct email to me would be great. And I'd be happy to answer anybody's questions, should they have any more.
Amazing. I'm sure they would love to work with you. It's a pleasure working with and chatting always with Denise. So thank you very much for this discussion. It was very fruitful, and it's a pleasure as always. So it was very nice
chatting with you. Malika, great to see you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Bye for now.
Bye.